What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, and a couple of other tickers. But just know that I'm not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15. And the offer ends very soon, just a couple of weeks. Anyways, let's talk about what's happening with the market. So, looking at SPY, we're doing a good job at holding up thus far. However, we are kind of choppy in this pre-market session. We'll have to see if we could break the 609 high or not. If we can't do that, there's going to be a risk of us coming back down towards this 20 EMA, and we'll see how it goes from there. But I'll talk more about this in just a couple of minutes. Just know we have two sides of news right now. There's good news coming out for Tesla as the Model Q, as it's being described right now, should be coming out under $30,000 after subsidies and such, according to reports. They did cite Deutsche Bank when making this claim, and they should be launching this very, very soon as the first half of 2025. Remember, we're already at the end of 2024. So, within a year, within a few months, possibly, this could be out. The new model that's coming out for Tesla, the Cybercab. So we'll see about that. So we'll see how long it takes for them to get this out. But this is some big news. And with this coming out, there's a lot of hype right now as Tesla's approaching all-time highs. It's not that far away from them. However, Nvidia is slipping because of the fact that China is opening an investigation over possible violations of anti-monopoly laws. There is some geopolitics getting involved in this, so I'm not going to go over the full details, but just know this is a little bit more negative for Nvidia, and this is why Nvidia is losing its 50 EMA, which could lead to a little bit more downside. I'll talk more about the chart in just a minute. Just know that today is Monday at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have wholesale inventories. At 11 a.m., we have consumer inflationary expectations. And at 11:30, we have the 3 and 6 month bill auctions. So look for some volatility at those times. Besides that, Oracle has its earnings coming out um, for today, at least after market close. But besides that, there's not much else coming out. Then we have more retail throughout the week. For other pieces of news, I didn't really see too much. I just wanted to say there's not really a whole lot else that's going on. Besides that, I'm just seeing the same pieces of news coming out. Nothing too serious. So I'm not going to go over that for the time being. I'm just going to focus on the charts from this point on. So I just want to say this: as far as SPY is going, we're doing a good job at holding up, at least thus far. However, we'll be watching the 609 area to see if this peak breaks. If we break past 609, we're looking for 611. If we can't do that, and this is like resembling a like double top, this could lead to a bit of a sell-off, a small little dip, especially as we have this gap down here to fill. So just know this: there is a risk of us dipping to about 606 if we can't break past 609. And if 606 fails us, we come back down here. The odds do favor us dipping lower looking at this setup, but we'll have to see just to be safe if this is truly a double top. So keep that in mind, guys. There's a risk of downside on SPY, but watch your levels just to be safe. We could be revisiting 606. For ES, this may attempt to push a little bit before it starts to dip. If we lose 60.88, there's going to be a risk of us coming back down to about 60.80. Watch this high here at 61.10. If 61.10 breaks, we will remain bullish, but we could push a bit. If we make a lower high and we don't exceed this high, there's a chance that that could be a temporary peak, and this might push a bit and start dipping lower towards 60.80 or so. So keep that in mind. If we don't surpass the high, we're going to be dipping lower, and the odds do favor that for the time being, especially as Nvidia is selling off right now, right? Nvidia is now below its 50 EMA. I think that we're going to be approaching 138 to 137. 137 happens to be where our 4-hour 200 EMA happens to be, so it's the main support. But once again, 138 is also where we have bounced historically. So somewhere in that range, close to 138 to 137 is where we could be tipping before it tries to bounce, possibly. So look for a little bit more downside on Nvidia, and then we'll have to see if it bounces later on. We also happen to have like an inverse head and shoulders like structure. So we did call out more potential downside in my video yesterday, and that's what's happening so far because of the Chinese news. Not bad, but look for a little bit more downside. Bitcoin could be retesting 99,500 or a little bit above that. If it makes a lower high here, it could reject and continue to downtrend a bit. So look for a push very close to 100,000. If that rejects, it could be coming back down. I'll be watching that very, very closely. For NQ is looking a little bit weaker. We hit 21,700. As we're struggling to break past that, there is like a rejection candlestick on the 4-hour forming. So that could lead this dipping closer to about 21,560. Could be a smaller dip towards that area before it tries to bounce again. So we'll have to see how it goes. For the QQQ, we hit this resistance all the way up here around this 528 area. Um, as you can see, we're struggling to hold above it. We did call out that level yesterday, but the problem is we're not holding above it too well. We kind of got a small rejection here, so I do expect 525 to be retested. If that doesn't hold, I think we go all the way down to 523.8 or around that area. there's a risk of this dipping towards the breakout at the very least, if not lower. So be careful with the QQQ. There might be a small dip coming looking at the charts. Unless 528 breaks again, there is that risk that I'm talking about. Apple's dipping a bit, but we're approaching our key support right here. We're going to likely range trade between 242 and 244, but there's a risk of us coming down to 241.5, so we'll see if we bounce off that or not. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're trying to push higher. We're going to be looking for this resistance up here around this 241 area. We could be pushing a little bit higher towards that, and we'll have to see if we reject or not. The main thing is watch and see if 240 holds. If we hold above that, then this could shift back to bullish because once again, we had a flag forming, but is this about to be a breakout on the IWM? We'll have to see about that. So if 240 fails us, I do think we could be pushing for 242. If 240, I'm sorry, if 240 holds, we go up higher. If it doesn't hold, there's going to be a risk of us returning to about 238. So just keep that in mind. For coin, we're going to be looking for a push for 344. And we'll see if we reject. For Amazon, we're kind of rejecting here. We need to get back above 228. Otherwise, we're going to be looking for 225 as our targets, not to mention 222. For Meta has this resistance to watch for around the 625 area. If we hit that, we'll have to see if we break or not. It is possible we retest around this like 620 area before it tries to bounce. So there could be a little dip coming before it tries to rebound. But overall, it is still bullish overall. It could be retesting its highs. Microsoft got a small rejection here. It's struggling to hold above 444. So if we don't hold above that, there's going to be a risk of us dipping closer to 440. Please keep that in mind. Google's also going to likely dip lower. We're looking at this main support right over here around this 175 area. If it fails, look for 174.69 and then 173.8. So there could be a small dip there as well. Anyways, that is it for my video. I thank you all so much for listening. So please have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. And as far as SPY goes, there is a double top leg structure, so just be very careful with it. And we'll see how it goes from here. I thank you all so much for listening. So please have a good rest of your day. And then don't forget one last thing. We'll be watching to see what happens with this data that's coming out. It's going to be quite minor, so don't expect too much volatility. So just remember these times to watch for that. And besides that, there's not really a whole lot else that's going on. So it's possible, and let me just clarify one more thing. I'm not a big bear right now, okay? All I'm saying is that there could be a temporary peak right here. So SPY, QQQ, they could dip a little bit. But if they dip, okay, if we do drop like 5 to 7 points, I see that as a big buying opportunity for the end of the year because I do think the market's going to bounce again. I hope that's as clear as possible. If we get a small dip by 5 to 7 points, the market's going to get bought back up and start pushing again and trying to break all-time highs as we get approach the end of the year for another big rally. Okay? So I'm not saying that this is like a pivot, a big crash, just like how we were on this big uptrend, right? SPY pushed up to 601 back in November. We dipped back down towards like the 580 area for a small dip. Then we got a nice continuation up. I think we're doing something like this most likely if we do get some kind of dip. It's just another buying opportunity for a continuation higher. So I hope that's as clear as possible, guys. Thank you all so much for listening. I will be back hopefully in a couple of hours for another updates. Until then, I thank you all for listening and peace out.